enabling the digital economy.
In today's financial world, governments are being increasingly pushed to adopt open banking through measures such as PSD2. Open banking has many advantages, most notably an increase of convenience for the customer. However, the image of a bank is one of trust, and without trust, banks would fail. Therefore, banks need to make all the right decisions to try to minimize risk and even outsource risk. So this was my thought process to develop my idea. New technology will have an inherent amount of vulnerability. And with the huge amount of new technology needed for open banking, this is likely to be a real problem. Even with perfect software, increased convenience means increased avenues for social engineering attacks. This is why I tried to change my perspective from how do we develop clever software to stop criminals to one of how do we take away the criminals' incentive to steal in the first place. This might be the worst conference to admit it, but I really like gangster movies where they rob banks and try to get away with it. And one of the main problems they come up with is physical money can be tracked. So they can't deposit it or spend too much of it in one place. This is why I thought, could banks and companies team up and make a currency that, while being convenient and secure, will make criminals look at it and go, ew, I don't want to steal that. I looked at many cryptocurrencies to try to figure out what the traits my cryptocurrency would need to have this, such as Ethereum and Bitcoin, but I decided not to use blockchain. My first reason was I don't understand blockchain well enough to know if I can integrate it into my technology. But the second was current technologies such as Bitcoin have many core principles that run counter to what I think a banking currency should have. This is an example of my proposed currency. It's a discrete token. The encrypted ID is in red. The encrypted transaction is in purple. And the encrypted transaction time is in green. The encryption I suggest is hybrid encryption because this gives a good trade between speed and security. They're an alternate of Roachcoin. So the transaction time and account I talked about before increases security and transparency. This is in contrast to Bitcoin, where transactions are intentionally made difficult to track. And companies can make algorithms based on this to try to increase customer convenience. The ID matches the values stored in an external database, and these values can be set conditionally. This is similar to Ethereum's smart contracts. After 1,000 or so trades, this is a high estimate. Maybe 50 to 500 might be more practical in terms of processing power. The coins are replaced to make sure they don't get too information heavy. And the coins' values are based on shares. I chose shares because money used to be based on a gold currency. And I thought, if you have shares from multiple different companies, from multiple different countries, surely a fluctuation in one country wouldn't change the value of Roachcoin very much. So it'd be a very stable currency. And I also want it to be hard to convert back into cash, maybe a week or two delay, and this is for security purposes. So what is the managing body? It's not some shady organization. It's made up of the main stakeholders of Roachcoin, the banks, the companies, and the people with large amounts of Roachcoin, as well as some members of the government. The main aim of this body is to distribute and collect Roachcoin, but it also holds an account where a large amount of shares are held that are bought off the companies by the banks at a discounted price. These shares cannot be sold, but banks collect dividends from these shares, and so do investors. And it also creates a buffer between the banks and risk by having all the third-party APIs based on this managing body. This is a diagram illustrating the interactions of the major parties of Roachcoin. As you can see, Roachcoin is just used as a normal form of currency with companies and customers, but customers never interact directly with the managing body for security purposes. Deposits are made straight to the bank, and then the money is then transferred to the managing body, and dividends are given back to the banks depending on how much they've invested into the currency. There's two types of Roachcoins. There's big coins and there's null coins. These all have the same properties as I mentioned before, but they're used fundamentally differently. Big coins have a value of $5 and up. They can be compared with your banknotes. These are traded less often, and These coins can be specially made for repeated transactions to make transactions more efficient. This also makes transactions less information heavy, as these coins have a higher value, so they can make up the bulk of the transaction. And these are the primary consideration when tracking the flow of the money and trying to develop algorithms to increase customer convenience. And these are the Null coins. The Null coins are smaller value coins, under $5, similar to coins in real life. These are traded much more frequently, and they're traded to make sure all required trades can be made. But the more important purpose is they make it difficult to track customer activity from the outside because the trading is semi-random. And this is an example of someone using Roachcoin. This is my grandpa. He's been scammed a few times online before, but he's heard from me, so he's a bit leery about online banking. But he's heard from me that Roachcoin is pretty secure. So he goes to a bank and he deposits some money. This money is forwarded into the managing body who creates a Roachcoin account for my grandpa. He can then use this to buy groceries. However, if he goes to his local farmer's market, he might not be able to buy anything. And the spread of adoption is a real problem with cryptocurrency. He wants to thank me, so he wants to send me some Roachcoin in reward, but I'm in a different country. This is all right, because Roachcoin is international, because it uses shares from many different companies from different countries. So why would Roachcoin annoy criminals? It's hard to steal. Roachcoin has all the normal transaction security measures, plus it can have additional security measures added onto it due to its ledger system. For example, a customer may have a trusted persons list, and anyone who's not on the trusted person list who receives Roachcoin from that customer will have a Roachcoin that's worth no money because the condition makes it worth nothing. It's also hard to spy on. As I mentioned before, the Null coins are traded very quickly. So a criminal will have to capture a token and then decrypt it, which should be difficult in itself. And then there's a high chance that this token will give it no valuable information, so it's difficult to steal customer information. It also makes it much easier to track crimes such as money laundering after a scam. And the nature of it having a 2 to 3 week delay to convert into cash means that a victim will have ample time to report to the authorities about the crime and have their money retrieved. This is a Venn diagram of the different parties, the customers in blue, companies in orange, and banks in yellow. And essentially, the customers get an international share-backed coin, which they can use to buy goods at a cheaper rate. Banks get a low-risk source of guaranteed profit, and companies get lots of data and more efficient transactions. These are my final thoughts. Many ideas come and go, and I'm sure everyone who's attended Sibos for the past week has come across many brilliant ideas. However, the idea of changing the very base of finance, currency, is a very exciting one for me. And finally, I'd like to explain why I'm calling Roachcoin Roachcoin. I want Roachcoin to scuttle around in households all around the world, not seen, but present. But when a criminal wants to commit a crime, I want them to look at Roachcoin and go, ew. Thank you very much.